Alright guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be reviewing Sly 4 Thieves in Time. So I have been wanting to do this review for a long time and I just never got around to it. I had to write up a whole thing about what I liked, what I didn't like and stuff, but I finally got around to doing it. I completed the game about 4 months ago, I'd say, and I just never got around to it. So I finally got around to writing a bit of a script ready for this and what I like and what I don't like. So let's pretty much get into it here. Before I do actually get into it, I just want to say that if you haven't seen any of my videos before, if you don't know me, I have been such a big fan of the Sly Cooper series. This is coming from a guy that spent his entire childhood playing the Sly Cooper series, Sly 1, 2 and 3. It's by far my favourite series of all time. I say I put years of my childhood into this game, so coming from a guy that absolutely adores the series, it's going to be my honest review of Sly 4. And as you guys know, this is made by a totally different company. It's not made by Sucker Punch Productions. It's made by Sanzaru Games, Sly 4 is. And I have some stuff to talk about like that. And I just want to say that this will be mostly spoiler free. I'm not going to get into the proper storyline, but there are somewhat spoilers. So if you don't want to hear anything about the game, then I'd recommend getting off of this now. This video and coming back maybe later if you wanted to hear my opinion on it. But so if you want to go now. So anyway, basically I just want to touch on a small part of the game. Well, it has a main part to the game, let's say. I don't know what I'm saying. It has a main part of the game, but I won't get into too much detail with it. Basically, in the game you get to play the part of the Sly Cooper's ancestors, of the Cooper family, like you see in Sly 3 when you go into the vault. And you get to see all the characters. You finally get to play the other Coopers. So I wanted to get that out of the way if you guys wanted to know, so I can properly get into the pros and cons. So first of all, I'm going to get into the pros first, then the cons, and then I'll give my overall opinion on it. So some of the pros, some of the small touches I really liked that I always wanted in the games, like for instance, you're able to sprint onto tight ropes and stuff if you're Sly, which I thought was a pretty cool little feature like that, the way they can add stuff like that. I liked the way Sly and Bentley looked in it. Not Murray, to be honest. He kind of looked like he did in Sly 1. Which isn't my favourite if I'm being honest, but they did look great. They're kind of a more detailed version, but they still have that kind of cartoony style to them still, which I really like. They had some tie-ins with the other Slys, like small little remarks of things they did in previous games, such as, I don't know, maybe something to do with clockwork, for instance, or something, which is pretty cool. They tied it in with the other games for the people that have played them, which is pretty cool. The gameplay was smooth, it was fluid like all the other ones. If you're Sly, you're just jumping around. The maps were made very well. You know, jumping from tightrope to pole, to swinging over, to paragliding over to another pole. It was very fluid movement all the way along. The actual areas I'll talk about now. In the cons I have to talk about some stuff to do with the areas, but with the art style of the areas, they're made very well. I didn't get to explore a huge amount of them. I pretty much just played the storyline. I didn't get to collect any of the bottles. Oh, that's one thing also I forgot to write down. The bottles are back, like in Sly 2, collecting the bottles, which is pretty cool. So again, I didn't get to properly explore the areas, but from what I've seen, the art style and the way everything's set up, it's very smooth, very cool looking, which I really like. The Coopers, each Cooper had its own personality, which is really cool. Sly's ancestors, they also had their own special abilities to get the crew to different areas of the map. You know, certain ancestors were better for climbing on ice, for example, stuff like that, which is really cool. Otherwise, there probably wouldn't have been much point of the characters, so it's really good they were able to tie them all into it. The storyline, I'll get into now. I also want to talk about the storyline a little bit in the cons. But the storyline was decent in my opinion. It carries on from Sly 3. If you remember at the end of Sly 3, and basically at the end of Sly 3, you know, when all the stuff fell on Sly and he couldn't remember anything. It basically follows on from that, and you remember Bentley is saying, I'll make a time machine to find out, you know. And it basically follows on from that, which I really like the way they fitted it in, so it's not like it's just kind of a brand new game, which you could imagine. What I also liked is you get to hear all the voices of the Cooper's ancestors. They all have their own type of voice. And again, I'm going to talk about that in the cons as well. I'm going to talk about most of these in the cons. But it's really cool. You get to finally know the characters, the Coopers. You know where they came from, know their types of personalities, which is really cool. And I want to touch on the art again. I just want to say that the art is nowhere near the same style as Sly 3, Sly 2, Sly 1. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's kind of going for a more detailed version because it's on the next-gen consoles, you know, PlayStation 3. Not next-gen anymore, but, you know, when they made it for it. So they kind of have more of a detailed... I really like the style. It suits it well. It suits the characters very well, which I really like. And now, guys, we're going to get into the cons of the game. Of what I touched on earlier, where we get to hear the voices of all the Coopers, the one thing that I kind of didn't like, well, it's not too much of a con, but what I didn't like is the characters had a very cartoony style to their voices. I know the whole thing is a cartoon, but they had more of a less mature voice, let's say, compared to like Sly or someone who has a proper normal voice, let's say. They had more of a cartoony style, which wasn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's just something I kind of noticed when I was playing it, that it was a very kind of a cartoony style voice. Another con, guys, was the camera angles. Now this tend to happen to me a lot in certain situations, where the camera angle will switch from being just behind them to being kind of far away from them at the side or whatever, and it can really be an annoying experience when all you want is the camera to be in the normal position, you know, behind them in the third person view, and when it's off to the side it can be very difficult to judge what's going on. That's just personal for me. I really didn't like that. They tended to do it a fair amount with certain areas that you have to do challenges. They turned the camera around or whatever, which really wasn't good for me. Another thing, guys, is the loading times. Now, when you're in a mission or when you're going around, there's no actual loading times or anything like that where you have to wait. It's just when you start to go into a mission, when you're clicking to accept the mission. You know, in most games, when you go to a mission, it takes a second to load or whatever, and then you get into the mission. But with this, I have to say they were too long, in my opinion. That's not just me being impatient. I've heard other people say it as well. It really takes you from being in the zone of the game. You know, you'd wait a little while and you're okay, but then you start to actually think like, wait, this is taking a long time to load now, and it's just the Sly logo flashing bigger and smaller, and it can really take you out of the mode of the game, which is, it's not a big con, you know, it's nothing for you to not get the game or whatever. But in my opinion, it was a little annoying to have the loading times. Another thing, guys, and this is a little more unacceptable than the loading times, let's say, and I find this is completely unacceptable on a console, and that is in some of the levels there is lag. Just going around the world, going around the map or whatever, jumping around, not necessarily doing anything in a mission or anything, just going around paragliding, let's say, and then you come to an area and you just get lag. You know, it's not terrible, it's still playable. Maybe that's just because I'm a PC gamer mainly. I'm able to notice the frames a little bit more, but just say going around at a solid 30 and then you get to a certain area and then it's down to like 20 FPS or something. And it's kind of weird. I think it's unacceptable in a console game. I don't want to be nitpicky with it, but you know, it's made for a specific console, and I feel like lag on a console, it shouldn't happen. You know, you don't have lag in Battlefield 4, do you? Or Battlefield 3 even, on a console. So I think they could have done something with that. Again, it's kind of nitpicky, but it's something I did want to mention to you guys. And finally, on the cons, guys, I just wanted to kind of give my opinion on how I felt about the whole storyline. And I have to say, after playing the other games, I feel like, you know, Sly 1, 2 and 3, I don't know how to describe it, but they had kind of more mature storyline, let's say. I know it's still a kid's game, but you know, in the Sly 1, 2 and 3, you know, you have Sly's parents were killed by the Claw Gang, and you know, it was a bit more of a mature storyline, and I feel like pretty much everything about Sly 4, kind of the voices, the storyline, everything about it is kind of a more kid-friendly-ish. I don't know, maybe that's just because I'm older now that I'm playing Sly 4. It's been 7 years, I think, since I played Sly 3, since it came out, so maybe that's why. But after playing it, I feel like the other games were a bit more mature. It sounds kind of weird even though they're kids games, but I hope you guys get what I mean by that. Alright guys, so overall, I just want to say that it is a great game. I know I said a bit into the cons, but I was getting a little bit nitpicky with them. I thought the storyline was very good, in my opinion. It followed on from Sly 3, like I said. It was a decent storyline, let's say. I will say it was a bit short, but you know, nothing wrong with that. And should you buy it? I would say yes, I would buy it. If you love the Sly games, it's very good. You get to see a continuation of the Sly story at least, even if you don't like that. What are they called? What's the Sanzaro games? Even though they made it, you still get to see a continuation of the storyline. I will have to say, in my opinion, I don't think it reached the mark of the other Sly games. In my opinion, now it was a great game. But the Sly games were just set the bar so high for me. I don't think any game could really reach that high apart from the Sucker Punch made it, in my opinion. But I do want to say that if you were to get it, definitely get it. You won't be disappointed with it, let's say. Just because I'm making a review, I wanted to put in kind of the cons and what I said. So that's going to be it, guys. This is probably a long review, I think, yeah. Hopefully you guys didn't think I was too harsh on it. I wanted to honestly give my opinion anyway, coming from a die-hard Sly fan over the years of playing. So like I said, I would recommend getting it. It's up to you guys. If you're a big Sly fan, definitely get it. You won't be disappointed. And that's pretty much it, guys. If you're new to the series, I would recommend playing the other games first. You can get them on the PS3, even though they were originally made on the PS2. Sanzaro Games actually ported them to PS3 in a HD version, which is pretty cool. Exactly the same game, just in higher quality for the PS3, which is really good. So I'd recommend playing them first. And that's going to be it, guys. Hopefully you liked the video. If you did, I'd appreciate a like. And I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye now.